Well, hey guys, I'm still crafting and we're having fun. Edward has been working his tail off doing filming for y'all. He's been doing historical markers and pizza places, and he is having a good time here in Scottsboro, Alabama, and in the surrounding area. I think he's even gone as far as Chattanooga a time or two again. So stay tuned. Enjoy what he's been working on. I know I'm going to, and I get a chance to watch it, and I'm going to keep enjoying playing with paper and enjoying fellowshipping with the ladies here in my craft retreat. So stay tuned. Keep watching.
Welcome to another episode of Historical Markers. Today we're in Grundy County, Tennessee. Grundy County and Marion County both split right through Monteagle, so we're looking at some markers here in Monteagle to begin with, and then we'll be venturing throughout more of the county. So let's see what Grundy County has to offer. We're standing here in Monteagle, literally on the county line. This side of the sign says Grundy County, established in 1846, named in honor of Felix Grundy of Virginia, Chief Justice of the Kentucky Supreme Court, representative in Congress from Tennessee from 1811 to 1814, U.S. Senator 1829 to 38, Attorney General in President Van Buren's cabinet. At the time of his death in 1840, he was again a U.S. Senator. And on the other side of this sign, Marion County, established in 1817, named in honor of Brigadier General Francis Marion, Revolutionary leader in South Carolina, whose brilliantly successful guerrilla tactics earned for him the title, the Swamp Fox. The Monteagle Sunday School Assembly, located on a site donated by John Moffett and other Monteagle citizens, MSSA was chartered October 31st, 1882, and opened in July 17th, 1883. Patterned after the Chautauqua Institution at Lake Chautauqua, New York, the purpose of MSSA is the advancement of science, literary attainment, Sunday school interest, and the promotion of the broadest popular culture in the interest of Christianity without regard to sect or denomination. MSSA differed from other Chautauquas and is significant in that it was ecumenical from the beginning. Known as the Chautauqua of the South, it has conducted annual assemblies for religious and educational programs without interruption since 1883. In 1982, MSSA was placed on the National Register of Historic Places by the United States Department of the Interior. It features outstanding and unusual Victorian and early 20th century cottage architecture on a campus of 354 acres containing more than 160 cottages and 15 public buildings. Monteagle Sunday School Assembly, one of 9 surviving Chautauquas. The Monteagle Sunday School Assembly was founded in 1882 by the Sunday School Convention of Tennessee. At the time, a number of states had these congresses, often called assemblies, all of them modeled after the Chautauqua Institution in New York, which was the first of these assemblies. They were meant not only as a place for religious activities such as retreats, but also as places for higher learning at a time when there were few colleges and institutes available to people. The MSSA opened for its first summer session on July 17, 1883. The summer courses offered on the grounds attracted many students and teachers, as most southern schools didn't offer summer programs. The thousands of yearly visitors soon encouraged the assembly to begin building projects which led to the creation of many cottages, public meeting halls, and boarding rooms. The World Wars and Great Depression severely hindered the revenues and popularity of the MSSA, forcing it to close many cottages and discontinue many of their programs. Other assemblies were forced to shut down during this period. It was nearly 30 years before interest returned to the MSSA, leading to the restoration and refurbishing of many cottages, as well as the introduction of new programs and guest speakers. This reawakening of interest peaked in the 1980s when the MSSA held its centennial celebration and was added to the National Register of Historic Places. The MSSA is one of only 9 surviving assemblies in the United States and still receives thousands of visitors a year. This marker is for the Amphitheatre, 1883 to 1900, Moses, Rock, and Pavilion. The amphitheater facing south on the hill north of this marker was completed for the opening of the first assembly on July 17, 1883. It was built under the supervision of William Webster, landscape engineer of Rochester, New York, who came to Monteagle November 1, 1882, drew plans for the Monteagle Sunday School Assembly, and remained through the initial season as its first general manager. Capable of seating nearly 2,000 people and accommodating a choir of over 100 voices, the amphitheater was modeled after the Grand Opera House in Paris. It was built of rough timber with rustic posts made from trees cut on the grounds of the assembly, with the bark left on the post. The amphitheater was the center of church school and most general activity. It was raised in 1900 to make way for a new auditorium. The spring at Moses Rock was one of several springs that were the initial sources of water for the assembly. The pavilion next to Moses Rock was erected in 1904 by the Ladies Association, now Monteagle Women's Association, and coincided with the restoration of the spring at Moses Rock, whose streams had been blocked through dynamiting in a failed effort to increase the spring's volume of water. The Dawn Redwood of Monteagle. The Dawn Redwood trees, Metasequoia glyptostrobius, however you say those words, found here are some of the oldest known trees in the world. The species has been found in fossils dating back 100 million years and was once native to most of North America. It was thought to be extinct until some trees were found growing in a remote valley in central China. In 1947, the Arnold Arboretum sponsored an expedition to the area and collected seeds which were brought back to share with nurseries, some of which were used to grow these trees. Native Tennessean Andrew Little, a literary giant who helped form the famous agrarian writers and once nominated for the Pulitzer Prize, lived in his ancestral log home here in Monteagle and taught for both the University of the South and Vanderbilt University. In later years, he became the founding member of the Fellowship of Southern Writers. In 1964, Little planted these trees in memory of his wife, Edna Baker Little. I'm going to assume these are the trees. In this same park is the Welcome to Monteagle sign. Monteagle's settlement history began with a 5,000-acre land grant to John Bostic in 1792. In 1855, construction began on the Mountain Goat Railroad, extending from Cowan to Sewanee, then through what would become Monteagle and on to Tracy City. It was on this railroad in May of 1870 that John Moffat, a Scottish born temperance leader, came to the mountain. His train stop hamlet officially became known as Moffat Station in 1871, later becoming Monteagle, and finally present-day Monteagle when the town was officially incorporated in 1962, as construction began on the first section of Interstate 24 in this area. Monteagle is home to many historic sites, stories, and people, including Al Capone, Andrew Little, and the Dubois Conference Center, the Great Eagle Caper, Hamper McBee, the Highlander Folk School, Historic Highway 41, the Dixie Highway, Madam Chiang Kai-shek, Martin Luther King Jr., the Monteagle Sunday School Assembly, Rosa Parks, and the Trail of Tears. This is the Trail of Tears bell removal route. On October 11th, 1838, the last group of 650 to 700 Treaty Party Cherokees, so-called, led by conductor John A. Bell, also a Cherokee, left Fort Cass in Charleston, Tennessee, headed for their new homes in the West. With them was U.S. Army Lieutenant Edward Dease, military escort and disbursement officer. They were given rations in 5-day increments. From October 23rd to 26th, they were camped at the head of the Battle Creek, Martin Springs, and on the Cumberland Mountain in the Trestle Point area. On the 26th, they were issued rations and purchased corn and fodder from Benjamin Trestle for their 318 horses. They continued through present-day Monteagle, Sewanee, St. Mary's, and Cowan to Winchester, then followed the route of present-day Highway 64 to Memphis, and then on to Arkansas. The group suffered 23 deaths, including 2 infants, on the 89-day, 707-mile journey. On January 7, 1839, they arrived at Vineyard, Arkansas, where they disbanded near the post office just west of present-day Evansville. In spite of removal, many Cherokee remain in Tennessee. This markers for the Highlander Folk School from 1932 to 1962. In 1932, Miles Horton and Don West founded the Highlander Folk School located 1/2 mile north of this site. It quickly became one of the few schools in the South committed to the cause of organized labor, economic justice, and an end to racial segregation. Courses included labor issues, literacy, leadership, and nonviolent desegregation strategies, with workshops led by Septima Clark, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, John Lewis, and Eleanor Roosevelt found inspiration for the modern civil rights movement there. Opponents of its cause tried to close the school. Following a 1959 to 1960 trial in Grundy County, the state of Tennessee revoked the school's charter. It was adjudged to have violated segregation laws, sold beer without a license, and conveyed property to Miles Horton for his home. When the sheriff padlocked the school, Horton proclaimed Highlander to be an idea rather than simply a group of buildings, adding, "You can't padlock an idea." In a 1979 Ford Foundation report, Highlander was singled out as the most notable American experiment in adult education for social change. This markers for the Northcutts Cove Chapel. The Northcutts Cove Chapel is the oldest standing meeting house of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, in southeastern United States. The building was constructed and paid for by local members, friends, and missionaries. John Tipton, a church member in Northcutts Cove, donated the land on which the building stands. The chapel was dedicated 24 October 1909 by Charles A. Callis, president of the Southern States Mission and later a member of the Council of 12 Apostles. At the time of the building's completion, Northcutts Cove was headquarters for the church's East Tennessee Conference. The chapel became a center for disseminating Latter-day Saint teachings in the state. It was the site of a 3-day debate, 24 to 26 October of 1909, between Charles A. Callis and the Church of Christ Campbellite minister. Latter-day Saints considered the unbiased newspaper reports of the debate to be a fair representation of the church as a positive, growing Christian religion. On 18 April 1979, the Northcutts Cove Chapel was placed on the National Register of Historic Places. We look down on the ground. There's a plaque here that says, in commemoration of the Northcutts Cove Chapel 100th anniversary in 2009. Then if you look up by the door, there is the Northcutts Cove Chapel, been placed on the National Register of Historic Places. And then let's back off and take a look at it. And then there's a big cemetery here behind it. We're here on the Grundy County line, and here is a marker that's right on the line. It says Grundy County, established 1844, named in honor of Felix Grundy of Virginia, Chief Justice of the Kentucky Supreme Court, representative in Congress from Tennessee from 1811 to 1814, U.S. Senator from 1829 to 38, Attorney General in President Van Buren's cabinet. At the time of his death in 1840, he was again a U.S. Senator. That's the same one that we read in Monteagle. But if we look to the other side, this time we're on the Coffee County line. And for Coffee County, it says established in 1836, named in honor of Major General John Coffee, soldier, surveyor, and close friend of Andrew Jackson. Tennessee troops under his command took a decisive part in the New Orleans campaign, December 23, 1814 to January 8, 1815. Beersheba Inn, 1/4 mile southeast. In 1837, several log structures were built and later joined together. Later buildings of handmade brick were added. Enlargement to present form was made by Colonel John Armfield in 1857. In antebellum days, the courtyard was the scene of varied diversions and activities, including holding of missionary services by Episcopal bishops Otay and Polk. This marker is for Mary Noailles Murfree, from 1850 to 1922. Described as Tennessee's foremost woman, writer of fiction, she used the pen name Charles Egbert Craddock for over 30 years. The Tennessee mountains and the Civil War were used as the settings for her novels and short stories, and she gathered material during summers spent here in her youth and early adult years. Her first major work was published in 1878, and she continued to write until 1914. Well, that was our episode of Grundy County Historical Markers. Let us know what you like, subscribe, and tune in to the next episode of Historical Markers.